So thank you everyone very much for coming to our discussion today on how technology can enhance the post-purchase experiencing by leveraging your tech stack. And to that end, I'm joined by three experts in the field. So first we have Andrew Chan, who is the CMO of AfterShip. So Andrew, could you give us a bit of an insight to your background and what it is that AfterShip does?
Yeah, so my name is Andrew, so one of the co-founders at AfterShip. I'm from Hong Kong. Yeah, so came all the way. But I look after the product side of AfterShip. The company now grows to 500 people. We started back in 2012 as a startup. It's still very startup-y. So my role as a kind of the CPO kind of role is to make sure like helping the big enterprise customers like Amazon kind of level to dig out any specific requirements and reflect that to the product. But very great to meet you. And then maybe afterwards, like feel free to chat more. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Next, we have Matt Davy, who is the head of technology and product management at SpaceNK. Matt, same to you. Could you give us an insight to your background and what you do at SpaceNK?
Sure. Hi. So I'm the head of product at SpaceNK. We're a luxury beauty retailer, so very curated, very specific product set. I've got a small product team that look after the e-commerce site, the ERP, and kind of a personalization engine. So we build a lot of our own models in-house. Previous to that, I was working at Argos and Sainsbury's, two of the biggest retailers in the UK, in GM and also in the fashion space.
Cool. And finally, we have Tim Hay-Edie, who is the head of technical pre-sales at Virtualstock. So Tim, could you tell us a bit about Virtualstock and what your role is there?
Sure. So as head of technical pre-sales, I get to know what it is that our prospect clients need from our distributed order management platform. We're working with predominantly retailers who are looking into a multi-channel dropship and marketplace solutions. And we're working in the UK, in Europe, also in Australasia. And actually, we've been working with AfterShip since 2014, where we're one of your oldest kind of partners and clients, where we were able to offer track and trace for the Tesco dropship and marketplace solutions. They had the Tesco Direct store, managing hundreds of thousands of orders a year. And so, we've been on this journey for some time. And my job is to make sure that where we implement dropship or marketplace, not only does the retailer get our platform, but also that it's implemented in a kind of a best practice way, because there are a lot of pitfalls and challenges that can rise up through an implementation.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Okay, well, thank you, guys. Let's kick off with the first topic. How can brands create a seamless delivery experience on a global scale? So, Matt, I guess first question to you. SpaceNK ships all over the world using many different couriers. Has this been an issue when maintaining good and consistent experience for your customers?
So we, not going back too far now, we used to ship everything from the UK DC, which meant that customers were getting hit with customs charges and tax charges because we were shipping. We weren't able to manage all of that ourselves. So we moved to a third party. We moved to someone so we ship via a shipping solution effectively. And that has helped us on the on-site experience bit, and certainly means that customers are let know upfront of what they're going to be paying. The challenge is every piece of comms they get is through a courier effectively, or through this other platform, which means as a brand that really care how we're portrayed to our customers, it's out of our control. We'd have no way of changing that. So we've actually started working with AfterShip. We're using the platform for two things. The first is, instead of sending customers to the courier's tracking page, we've built our own. We're bringing them all in, so we know that all the customers that are tracking come to our site, get our experience. We're able to keep them on the site and then hopefully turn that into more experience and more interaction. But it also means it's a controlled one. The other piece we're starting to work on is that we can build comms based upon status updates. So we can replace a dispatch email or a ready-to-collect email that's being sent by a courier. We can actually block them and send our own version from our own ESP using the triggers that the AfterShip platform give us. So again, it's building out that cohesive customer experience that really feels like the brand that we want to portray.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Okay, Tim, so your partners that you're working with are shipping not just their own stock, but also third-party stock as well. So how have you been able to make sure that the delivery experience remains consistent despite completely different shipping journeys?
So it's an interesting challenge. You're dealing with a retailer might have hundreds of dropship suppliers or marketplace sellers, and they're all delivering direct to the customer. How is it that you can create a homogeneous experience that all those customers are going to receive the same messaging from the brand, from the retailer, that is consistent with their stocked-in product? So you want to make sure that not only are the suppliers being able to provide that information, but the carriers that they're using could be diverse. And we're working with carriers and suppliers in Australia, in Europe, in the UK. There could be potentially hundreds of different carriers. And how do you how do you map the different messages that they're sending to the consistent template that the retailer wants to send out for this particular part of that delivery journey? So it's the order's on its way, or it's out for delivery. How do you make sure that all those messages that we're getting, and we get millions of messages from AfterShip, how do you map those to make sure that the message that gets out to the customer is consistent and not different from one carrier and different from another carrier? Because you're going to create confusion, and clearly a confused customer is a customer that's going to draw back,
Sure,
and question what's going on, and that's the last thing that the retailer wants in this context.
excellent. Thank you, Tim. What about you, Andrew? What advice would you give to brands and marketplaces that want to improve the experience?
Brands mentioned, like you mentioned about the delivery experience actually doesn't stop at delivery. So many of the brands, I say, delivery experience is about the actual delivery, but as a consumer, the shopper, they don't care. They don't care which carrier you use. They think about if there's carrier problem, the delivery, they will blame you. So many of the customers got the pain points actually during the delivery. It's about proactive notification, those engagement, making sure you notice them. So you mentioned about the proactively notifying the customers, bringing them to a more branded experience for tracking. But also one thing that we help our marketplace or brands is to inform internally as well. Take actions before the customer notice. For example, exception due to incorrect address. Very simple, right? But what happens is if the customers do not have the right address, they get returned to your warehouse. Means the orders get canceled. Customers not happy, they're not going to return, right? This kind of problem, it sounds very simple, but are you guys monitoring it? Most of the merchants we know, they are not. So how do we notify internally and take actions before customer aware? If the customer reach out, it's too late for you. So this kind of notification in-house, internally, getting the routing to the right team to handle it, supply chain or support team, that's the first thing. The other thing, we help customers like Harry's, the razor company, or Vinted as well, to get all the data in one place. Because using many carriers, like in Europe or internationally, or even one country as well, all the data needs to be centralized. The data is not just for consumer, but also analyzing in-house. Is it delivering on time? Which carrier is performing better? So if you promise customer it's 3 days, are we sure it's 3 days or not? So, during the COVID time, it's very crazy with the delivery time. We help one very big electronic companies worldwide and then monitor the delivery rate, the on-time rates. The result is shocking. It's only 35% of the shipments are on time. So they don't know the data. They think it's on time. They know it's late, but how late it is. So that kind of experiences is what customer concern, right? It's not just getting the product delivered, cheaper rates, done, right? But how about as a consumer side, look at the merchants, the brands? It's a very different perspective, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Next, we'd like to talk about returns and how brands can manage the cost of returns without causing undue friction in the process. Tim, returns are obviously one of the biggest headaches for both customers but also sellers alike. You work with many retailers all over the world. What would you say their views are on the importance of managing returns well?
Well, as you say, it's a problem. But it's interesting how some retailers, in their commitment, in their promise around returns, are actually able to engage with their customers and grow their customers because they're providing a good returns experience. And it really is about the customer experience. The customer wants it to be smooth, simple, and they want to be able to get refunded as quickly as possible. On the flip side, the retailer has to be able to manage that expectation. And they need to have visibility of the return. And if it's working with a direct to customer, so a dropship, a supplier or a marketplace seller, is the order being returned directly to them? Where is it in that supply chain? Because we have a concept we call the return recovery rate, which is the difference between the percentage of returns where the customer's been refunded, the supplier has been paid in good faith for an order that was delivered, but the retailer has not been credited for the return because the return is lost somewhere in that reverse logistics journey. Has the customer returned it to the store because you have a store network and the customer naturally expects to be able to return it to the store? Does the in-store colleague know what to do with it? Or they're like, well, we don't know what this is. I can see that there's an invoice and I've refunded the customer, but I'm just going to chuck it into a cage. And maybe it'll get its way back somehow to the supplier. Where is that in the reverse logistics journey? Within the retailer's network? Or is it somewhere outside on its way back to the supplier and the retailer doesn't even know that? Okay, it's all about unifying that because you're gonna match that customer expectation. But ultimately, your businesses, you've got to make sure that the bottom line is adding up. And if returns aren't being properly monitored, they are the biggest cost. I talked about the return recovery rate. If there's a return, you're losing the margin because you're having to refund it. But if you're also losing the cost of that, the suppliers, what the supplier is invoicing you for because you've lost it, then it doesn't take much to understand that it's a disaster from a customer experience point of view, but also from a bottom line. And it's not about chasing revenue; it's about ensuring that you're profitable. And the returns in the analysis is where you really define: are you a profitable e-commerce business or not?
That's super interesting. Thank you, Tim. So maybe from a slightly different perspective, Matt, you now work in cosmetics, which I imagine the returns is fairly low, but you've also worked in fashion. So what would you say are some of the key differences between those two worlds? And could you give us some general best practice about managing returns?
Sure. So I guess in the fashion, we were used to the buy three, return two, which was a real headache, a real problem we had to try and solve. And at the time, the way we tried to solve it was using the real estate. So somewhere like Sainsbury's had stores all over the place, so we could actually make the best experience an in-store experience. So it's really slick, really easy for the customer, and really cost efficient for the business. In beauty at the moment, we don't have that same problem because we're quite luxury, because of the type of product we sell. The majority of returns that are initiated are done so because either they bought a product that has an ingredient in that they weren't really aware of, and actually it's just not going to be the right thing for them, or there's a problem with the product when it arrives. And for most of those, we take the view of we tend to just give the customer the refund and ask them to either give it to someone else or dispose it of themselves. We don't try, it's just not cost efficient. Yeah, it makes more sense for us. Not for everything, but that tends to be the go-to. And that also fits with our kind of promise to our customers of 100% satisfaction. We're not going to make them jump through a load of hoops to return things to us. And I feel like, to your point, there's almost this balance of the best customer experience is one where I don't need a printer because I don't own a printer. So if you make me print a label, you've already introduced so much pain into my experience. I can't believe. So is it going to be picked up from my house? Do I just drop it off? What is the easiest experience? And that expectation's already been set. So if you're not meeting that expectation, you're already pissing customers off in that part of their journey. And that is the worst journey. A customer that has to go through a return is already the customer that's least likely to come back to you. So you have to try and save that. You have to have the best experience. And I'm very conscious you are balancing that up with how can we do this cost efficiently? It's not cost efficient for me to pay for everyone to have a house pickup. It's just not going to work. So as I say, in Sainsbury's, it was how do we use the in-store experience? How do we make that one the slickest, the best experience? So for a customer, it makes sense. It works. It's not arduous. I don't have to jump through a load of hoops. But for the business, it was the most cost effective. And I imagine that's going to be different for everyone's business. But for us, it was just really putting that mindset of, the customer this has to be easy. This has to be the best experience, because then they'll come back. If I know something goes wrong and you look after me, it's really easy. I'm going to come back because I've got no concerns about it happening again. If it takes me 7 days to get something into a particular DC, then it takes another 5 days for a return to be initiated. It disappears. I don't know what's happening with it. I'm not going to come back because I don't have faith in your process.
Yeah. I think for what you mentioned, visibility is key. And one thing is about the visibility of how do you manage the visibility? How do you get the visibility? So I don't know the brands, how many brands here. So, but if you are still asking customers to contact customer support to file a ticket, and that's that doesn't give you visibility as well. It doesn't give you, what you mentioned, ease of return for sure. So I think most of the customers are looking, comparing what Amazon experience. Amazon experience is you do the few click, you get the return. I don't know in Europe they pick up or not.
Depends how wrong it's gone. Yeah.
But it's something that customers want, right? The easiest. But at the same time, how do you get the cost low? You want the ease, but you want to keep the cost. So the cost comes from two main parts. The cost of the return of the product itself. How do we reduce the refund, increase the recovery rates? So and also the other part is the cost of doing the returns part. So the visibility, the ease of return at the end comes to, do you have a software in place to help you automate everything? Through the automation, you reduce the cost of people. Right, we have customers like Mark Nolan, and then they have 13 people doing returns with the software becoming one. Simple as that. Why? Because instead of customer asking all the things, the customers just do all the things. And then the customers feel even better because sometimes you ask the question, well, I want to return a discounted product. It's on sales. Through those self-serve automation, customer as a buyer, you can see what's happening. I do a few clicks. Oh, actually, I cannot return it. So the rejection is softer. There's no conflict between the customer support and the shop itself. And through the automation, the customer can do the returns by themselves. They can print the label. And for the merchants, they can see all the visibility, what's going on. One key thing for those automation return solutions these days is not just about automating the return, but encouraging exchange or setting the rules to say then go to green returns. If certain thing, if you're VIP, free return. If you're not VIP, you have to pay. If you are in, let's say, London, we'll use certain carrier, it's free. But if you're a certain country, is more expensive, then we'll charge for the shipping fee. So this kind of automation you need to put in place. Those automations, not just reducing the cost of the merchants, but also kind of improving the experience for the shoppers to encourage them to do the exchange through the user experience. So I would say it's still kind of the industry needs to move forward to more automations for the returns rather than otherwise the visibility part and also the customer experience will be a pain point. Yeah.
Thank you. So next we'd like to talk about something that I'm sure that everyone here is concerned about. It's customer retention. Matt, maybe the cost of acquiring a new customer is already high. It's getting higher all the time. So what importance do you and SpaceNK place on retaining your existing customers?
I mean, it's the main customer that we focus on is how do we reduce that lapse rate. So we have a metric we use for it. We're around second purchase rate, which is our kind of indicator of whether they're coming back or not. And we've built a whole platform around this. So we've built our own customer lapsing model, looking at our customer data using machine learning, so we can identify when we think customers are likely to enter into that lapse state, and then we can proactively talk to them. So we use CRM campaigns to go out to them to try and stop them from kind of getting to that point of where they're not going to come back. We've got certain product types that we know are kind of re-engagement products. So if I speak to them in a certain way, we can incentivize or we can promote around them as well. So we've got all of this built into a platform. We're currently building on top of that platform now, but it allows us to be very proactive and trying to be personalized to that customer to say, you bought this product, we think it's a really good one. Is it that they're lapsing because actually it's a replenishment time? So actually this is the right product. We think this one's expired. Why not come back and buy it again? And just trying to trigger those things at the right way so that instead of treating all our customers as kind of one hat fits all, we're able to target them individually to say this is the right time for this customer to try and stop them from reaching that lapse point. Because once they do lapse, it's then like the kind of fair game. We've got to pay to reacquire them again, but also we know they're probably shopping somewhere else at that point. So we're kind of fighting ourselves on two fronts.
And what about you, Tim? So I know that one of the key offerings of Virtualstock is to try and reduce those, where is my order emails that your clients get. So how important do you think that post-purchase experience part is in retaining customers?
Well, it's key, and clearly any noise in the system, any poor customer experience is going to affect the acquisition or the customer lifetime. And Andrew, you were talking about earlier how being able to capture the information and being able to personalize it is so important for in a Wizmo, where the customer is actually calling your customer service center, you've already lost. And how do you pull that back? By making sure that it's all handled in one call. At the very least, that's what you can do. But that requires getting data from multiple points. And it could be that a customer has, they're refitting a kitchen or something like that, and it's coming from many different suppliers, and including your own warehouses as well. So there's a number of things that all need to be tied together that the customer could be asking about. So you've got to empower your customer service team that they're able to react to that. But talking also about being proactive around Wizmos, to your point, is if you know that there's been a problem, like a fail to deliver or some other delivery exception, are you able to reach out and call that customer? Or are you able to do some form of intelligent messaging that says, okay, in this case, reach out with this message? Because it may be that as you said, it's the wrong address, or some other problem around that delivery. It could be that the customer's not in, and they're expecting a card from the carrier, but having to then rearrange the delivery is a problem. They may not have the card. If the retailer is able to reach out proactively to that customer, you can save the day, you can save the order. And that's kind of what we're getting at here, is ensuring that from a personal point of view, I can take bad news, but I don't want to be the one calling the retailer and saying, I've taken the day off and the cooker wasn't delivered. If somebody's calling me and saying there's been a problem, we're really sorry, we're sorting it out, but the delivery is going to be on Monday, that's a completely different conversation that you're having with that customer. Whether that's a VIP, you're actually reaching out and having a person speak to them, or whether it's a kind of an AI configured message based on the issue and a template, email or comms. The point is that you're changing the conversation. You're in charge rather than being reactive to a pissed off customer. And that's how you retain. If you've got that personal, sorry, we're on it, we've got you, we're going to sort this, is what they want to hear, and they'll stay.
Yeah. I think for the question is like the personalization on the post-purchase part, why is so important for those notifications. So I don't know if you guys know the open rates for the standard marketing email. Maybe the high rate is like 20%, around that. So when it comes to delivery notification, like guess how much higher? It's 70 to 80%. So we have a customer called Fresh under LVMH Group. They send out delivery notification, email, SMS, and then for the email, they see a 70% to 80% open rates. And that, like, the brands will take that as an opportunity for upselling and cross-selling as well. And the other kind of figure why need to personalize the post-purchase experience through the tracking. You mentioned about instead of directing the customers to the Carrier website, bringing it to your own website. Why? So if you are sending 100 orders, there will be 300 visits to that tracking page experience. So you are sending the traffic away from your own website to some other website. So you want to bring it back. So bringing it back, how do we optimize that experience? If that person's buy, let's say, female products, you want to show female products, or children product, you want to show some children products, and that increase the conversion as well. So we got brands will leverage on this post-purchase experience and then calculate how much revenue are generating through the post-purchase experience. Some brands we see through that tracking experience generating 25% of their total revenue. So if you're still thinking post-purchase is about just saving costs, is okay, we're doing it tracking, sure, better experience. No, it's about revenue generation. How much revenue we are capturing through that post-purchase experience, and that's why you need to personalize it, etc.
Well, it's good that you mentioned some of those statistics, Andrew, because the next thing we want to talk about is actually measuring results. So it's all very well saying that, okay, I think that my NPS has improved, or I think my customers are happy, but how do you actually measure whether that's the case or not? So maybe to you then, Andrew. I know that AfterShip gives retailers statistics on both their logistics network, but also customer success. So are customers opening the emails? Are they happy? Do they like the way that you're delivering parcels? So what do you think are the main KPIs that brands and marketplaces should be concentrating on when it comes to post-purchase?
I think for brands, for the tracking experience I mentioned, like that will be actually ultimately you want to measure the revenue generated through the post-purchase experience, but you can break down by how much marketing traffic is generating from this post-purchase experience through tracking, and then they repurchase again. And what is open, and then the click rates for those notifications. That's kind of a basic for the tracking piece. But when it comes to returns, like we will measure more the recovery rates, how much we got customers originally returns like full refund, that would be 75%. And how about using the return solution? Does it get reduced to by X% and become 50% of the products get refund, and the others will be exchanged, right? And I will say, like, ultimately, you want to link everything to your revenue. The whole book will be, the post-purchase will be responsible for revenue generation, right? Not just the cost. So that will be explaining the metrics. But of course, the NPS, reducing Wismo, return rates, etc. Those things I would say like is kind of like good. And one metrics like many brands will kind of let go is didn't really monitor, which is for me as a buyer is very important, which I mentioned is the delivery time from order to ship to delivered. With your customer segmentation, VIP, do you hit like 100% on time? As simple as that. I ask the brands, they say, oh, I think it's 99%. And he even say 99% is not good. Then I ask him, right, do you know your on-time rate? No idea. So everyone's kind of like think their on-time rate is great. But as a shopper, I don't care what you say. I say it's late, right? So I blame exception on you. The product not delivered is lost. I also blame on you. So those are not, I don't care about the carrier, it's about the merchant's problem. So from the consumer perspective, is it on time? And of course, you manage the carriers, right? Different carriers, are they on time? So you need to manage the customer expectation. You also manage the carriers, the performance, and also your warehouse order to ship time. Those kind of on-time rates is so crucial. I would say more even crucial than those reduced Wismo tickets because that's kind of the core basic for all the problems, yeah.
Yeah. And does that sort of chime with what you're measuring, Matt, in SpaceNK?
So I mentioned earlier with this focus on retention, we focus on second purchase rate for two reasons. One is it's actually been proven to be a really good indication of annual customer value and then what we perceive as our lifetime customer value. So actually it gives us a really good understanding of our customers coming, how are they coming back, and then we can really target them. And we can break that down by acquisition channel, we can break it down by site behavior, we can break it down by what happens post-purchase, so we can then be very specifically targeted. And the general consensus is if someone has a terrible experience, it doesn't really matter at what point, second purchase rate will go down. Post-purchase will obviously be a bigger indicator of that. So that's the one we've decided to focus on. And because it's so tangible, because it's so easy to address, and you can see that metric change very quickly, it's very useful to pick for us. Because I think where we've used things like Wismo before, Wismo as a metric I found can become a little bit woolly because there's so many other things that can impact it. You can build a great post-purchase experience and Royal Mail go on strike. Your Wismo goes up and suddenly it's like, well, did my thing actually perform in the way it was meant to do? And similar with NPS, when we've tried to monitor NPS, there's just so many different factors that can move it. It's nice to have in the background to make sure that we're not falling off a cliff and we can see where the customer's views are coming through. But ultimately, when we've looked at it, what gives us kind of a tangible number that we can actually do something about for us at the moment is second purchase rate.
Great. So thank you guys, super interesting. Final question, what are your predictions for e-commerce logistics? Maybe Tim? What are your predictions for the future?
So I would say for multi-channel retailers who have a store network as well as an e-commerce proposition, how can you drive customers back into the store and then give them what it is that they're looking for? It may be that they can't find what it is that they want in store, but are you able to then provide them with the in-store colleague is able to upsell or cross-sell and find something and have it delivered from the website using a simple tablet and a point of sale. I've seen this work with John Lewis so easily. It just the in-store colleague is the best placed person to affect that sale. And if you give them the tools to be able to do that, and say, okay, we didn't have the jacket in your size, but it is the jacket that you want. I'll have it delivered either click and collect, you can pick it up here, or you can have it delivered to your home. And that experience where the customer has actually taken the time to go into your store, it's criminal to let them leave unhappy. And it's not complicated or difficult technology. It's just about thinking, okay, well, let's close the loop here. Let's provide a unified retail experience. So that's, I would say, something that more retailers need to kind of just look at.
Sure. Matt? Any predictions?
Yeah, I wonder around pace. So if you think back over what happened when COVID happened, anywhere that could do an in-store collection, it was around get a customer in and out of that store as fast as possible. So it was very slick. It was you turn up, here's your barcode scan, here's your product, out you go. And I feel like we've seen the same thing with delivery. So all the deliveries are, how fast can I get this delivery? How many deliveries can we do in a day? And I think what you see in both of those is it's the customer experience that's left behind. So where's that doorstep interaction? There's countless examples of people who will say, I had a terrible experience with this particular courier. I mean, you can Google them and you can find examples of them on roofs and in bins, and I'm fairly sure you all know what I'm talking about. And I feel like that's the same thing in store. If someone just comes in, picks a thing in and go, you miss all of those opportunities that you've talked about. And so I do feel like there's almost an element here of how do we take the foot off the gas a little bit and allow that customer experience piece to come back without trying to impact some of those. The customer expectation is I still want things fast, but do I want it so fast that I don't get that engagement?
So do you mean to get them to more the store and engage more? Or?
Well, I think there's an opportunity to get them more into the store to engage more, but I also feel like if I've spent a lot of money on an item that's going to be delivered to my house and it's literally like, there you go, and they run off. There used to be an element of white glove where you kind of got someone that would come in and talk to you a little bit more about it. So I do think there's a balance there of, and maybe it comes down to the particular retailer where you decide the experience you want to have at that doorstep or at that handover point. So it's a little bit more than there's a box on your doorstep and a doorbell going. It's what does that experience be? And I think that comes down to what the customer expectation is at those different levels.
Yeah, I think that is something that we just did a hackathon at our company. All the engineers do the hackathon. Of course, the trend is about AI. So what does the AI impacting the post-purchase, right? The team figure out the two part. One part is actually related to what you mentioned. So figure out what the customer want. Whether it's a VIP customers getting delivery updates, delivery not on time. Do you want to refund directly, automatically, or you want to get them? You buy something, let's say retinol for skin, for example. You want to do the post-purchase, the education, kind of those things, using AI to generate the content for the post-purchase is something that will be very interesting, the adoption. Even customer asking one questions to understand, you got delivery late, so how do you route them to the right answer or resolve it automatically? It will be interesting for the AI. We believe that will be huge. The second with the AI part is about the delivery. So we're actually doing it. We process billions of shipments. So many of the carriers, I would say the top carriers are quite good, some of them, but many carriers are still very bad. We integrate with 1,000 carriers. I would say majority still do not have something called EDD, estimated delivery date, that is accurate. So when it comes to EDD, right, you rely on the data where it's shipping from and to, and then different checkpoints to the zip code level, per event as well. How do we give the EDD pre-purchase at the product page, like Amazon, and then keep that promise after purchase and then during the delivery? And then with the delivery, how do we automatically update it? So that experience is relying on the AI to do so with more carriers. And then that's what we need to build it for our company, for our client as well. So I would say AI will be impacting quite fast for this. And then for us, remember I look after the product. We are super passionate how we use automation solving all the kind of retailers pain. Retailers, I would say, is one of the type that doesn't enjoy that much technology, the best technology. We are still talking about how do we be on par with Amazon. It's quite sad, to be honest. From my perspective, I was having the same talk. I was like, can we do better than Amazon? We are still doing the talk about how to become at least better, at least become Amazon, right? So I hope the trend with AI adoptions for retailers, fast adoption, there will be some change of the industry. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, for the e-commerce and logistics space. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, Andrew. So I think that concludes our discussion for the day. So thank you so much to our panelists. I think we've still got a little bit of time. So do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah. Feel free. Any questions, throw to us.
And if the panelists want to put on the earphones.
What's that? Yeah.
It's on?
Channel.
It's on, guys?
Yeah.
Don't see a reaction from the panel. Yeah? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, great. I was wondering, do you see a big difference in the after-sales experience in B2B channel versus B2C channel? Because I think most of the examples you were given are in B2C channels. Do you see a big difference, or are you like, it's all the same?
For our side, we serve like B2B and B2C as well. I would say B2B and B2C are quite similar in the way of like monitoring delivery time, right? So you still need to monitoring it. So it doesn't matter it's like B2C or B2B. You want to do it, but instead of like informing the customer, right? You informing hey, your package is out for delivery, it's delivered. You still need to inform the business as well, and that perspective doesn't change. And of course but it doesn't require that much of like personalization or marketing assets so much when it comes to the tracking experience. But you still want to encourage them, hey, after you get delivered plus X days, do you want to get reorder again? Right, those experience is re-engagement. It's also like have the post-purchase experience. I treat them as a consumer, as a shopper. I would say still very important. The returns part, I would say very different. I'm not very familiar with, but in terms of tracking, actually is quite similar. But the carrier-wise will be a little bit different. For the B2C, will be parcel more. When it's like B2B, we support like LTL or even some freights as well. So that tracking, we still do it, but the just the carrier mix will be a little bit more different from my perspective. I don't know, Tim knows more.
Well, where we do see B2B is in the building supply sector, where you've got builders, merchants, and a builder comes in. One of their customers is a builder. And what they are looking for is consolidation of orders, cross-docking, those sorts of additional requirements, which you don't tend to get in the B2C. I mean, we do see it with some clients like John Lewis, where you're getting a bed and a mattress. You want that to be consolidated when it's delivered, and it's delivered in what they call a green van for that. But mostly in the B2B, what they're trying to do is emulate what they're seeing in retail in B2C. They want to see that best practice. They want to see on time in full. Because if it doesn't arrive, it could be that the project is delayed. And so if they've got sight of that, it means that they can deploy their resources elsewhere. And that's key to have that kind of thing. And previously, it's all done on the phone. If you've ever worked with a builder, they spend half the time is on the phone, trying to figure out where stuff is in the delivery, and that can be improved so much more. And we're seeing builders, merchants, and others in the building supply sector working with apps and things like that, where you can monitor your order and you can see where it is and everything else. That's the direction of traffic in terms of where this industry is going.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything? Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
No?
If not, then thanks so much.
Yeah, no worries. And just to say, if anyone wants to have a chat with Andrew, Tim, or Matt after this about anything that they've talked about or anything else, you can come find us at booth F20. So just look out for the AfterShip logo.
Yeah, it's just next to the washroom. Yeah, love to chat more. From Hong Kong, there will be something I don't know about Europe. Love to chat more. And if you want to know about US, majority of our customers are in US. Love to chat, and Asia as well. Yeah, happy to do so.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.